If it's really basic.
I am.
I have 4 years of French.
Good. Comment allez-vous? Est-ce que vous étudiez français en collège?
I haven't done anything yet.
Sure.
He wasn't even there.
You've got the message.
It's too late.
Sit down, we'll see.
That's what you need. Different perspectives.
I was almost fluent in French after the
Good evening.
year. I mean, I could think in French, yeah. The time is now 7:02 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded or suspended.
Suspended.
Okay. The participants in the executive session were
John Schaefer.
Will Sawyer.
Phil Mella,
Ken Matthews.
Bob Carlson.
Aaron Smith.
David Buttery,
Sally Riley.
and Cindy Keating was present as well, but she is absent from this part of the meeting.
thank you. If any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns now. Hearing none, the next agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item number 4, we have no ceremonies or presentations this evening, and nor do we have any additions or deletions, so we'll move on to the consent calendar, and Sally Riley, who's filling in for Suzanne tonight. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Mayor Levy. We have 2 items on the consent calendar. First is the minutes from the November 5th, 2015 meeting, and the statement of expenditures for September 2015.
Questions, gentlemen? If not, call for a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Thank you. Sally?
Thank you. Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Levy?
Yes?
Matthews?
Yes.
Mella?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
And Schaefer.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Sally. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll move on to agenda item number 8, and ordinances on initial posting, and David Buttery.
Mayor, thank you. Before you tonight, Council, are 2 initial postings of ordinances that relate to our budget. The first is Ordinance 1261 on initial posting, appropriating sums of money to the various funds for the 2016 budget. And the second is the expenditures, the supplemental appropriations for the 2015. We're prepared to answer any questions you may have about the budget tonight, but these ordinances are in initial posting, and I would ask that you adopt this on initial posting and set the public hearing first for Ordinance 1261 on posting the appropriate sums of money to the various funds for the public hearing to be held on December 3rd.
And I would agree. We just need to approve these on initial posting, and we'll get to chat about them on December 3rd. Bob?
Yes, I had several motions I wanted to propose, one of which had to do with some of the issues dealing with the county commissioners, the animal control officer. I understand from the mayor that he wants to arrange a meeting with the some of the county commissioners to see if we can resolve this. So if we can, I would go ahead and put this off till that next meeting. I just want to reserve the right to be able to make motions, even though we're coming to the final meeting, to make possible changes to the city council, the city budget.
And I don't believe that'll be a problem.
That is not. This initial posting, of course, changes can take place that night.
Okay.
Any other discussion before we vote on this? If not, let's take these one at a time, and if I could have a motion to consider ordinance number 1261 on initial posting.
I would move approval of ordinance number 1261 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Sally?
Thank you. Mayor Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
Mella?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
And Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And request the same thing for ordinance number 1262.
Well, I would move approval also for ordinance number 1262 as presented.
Second.
And both of these are for the December 3rd.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Sally, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Levy?
Yes?
Matthews?
Yes.
Mella?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
And Carlson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Sally, thank you very much. We're going to move on to public hearings and agenda item number 9A. Before we do that, council members use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us. Be assured that it is the common practice of this city council that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during public hearings. Thank you. And welcome to the podium, Laura Pellegrino.
Thank you, Mayor Levy and members of council and staff. This is a vacation application, vacation number 15-008, and the corresponding ordinance number 1257. It's a request by Park State Bank and Trust, who is the property owner, to vacate the 10-foot platted utility and drainage easement between lots 9 and 10 of Paradise of Colorado number 2 subdivision. It is within the suburban residential zone district with addresses of 271 and 281 Thunder Ridge Drive. The application for vacation of these easements was submitted on October 7th. On November 5th, council had the initial reading on this ordinance, and tonight we are here for the second reading and the public hearing on this ordinance. This is a map that shows the general location of these two lots. You can see that it's in the east half of the city, pretty much in line with the horizontal portion of Highway 24. It's shown on this map as this blue dot with the word site next to it. And you can see, excuse me, downtown Woodland Park, Highway 24, Highway 67. So this gives you your bearings within the city for this particular subdivision. This is a close-up showing the neighborhood, showing the beautiful area that this subdivision is in. The two lots that we are looking at today, Lot 9 right here and Lot 10 just north of it. You can see the south end of the high school right here on this corner of the slide. And this is Thunder Ridge Drive here, abutting the front of both of these lots. And you can see the heavily wooded area within the subdivision. These two photographs show you the typical characteristics of the site. Again, you can see these are wooded lots. Both of these lots are currently unimproved and do not have any houses on them at this time. Thank you. So this kind of shows you that there are some slopes, but for the most part, they're both developable lots. The application is submitted for the vacation of a corresponding interior lot line, so the common lot line between 9 and 10 is proposed to be vacated, and today council will hear and make a decision on the easement of the vacation of the easement for utility and drainage that is 5 feet on either side of this lot line that will be vacated administratively. So the vacation is for a 10-foot wide easement that will be vacated, approximately 200 feet long, and shown on this exhibit. Staff did a review and analysis of the application, did find that there are no adverse effects on utilities, access, road construction, area traffic patterns, or adjacent landowners. The vacation of the easement and the corresponding lot line vacation will result in one contiguous lot. It will conform to the plan and the suburban residential zone district in this area, and the deeds are currently in the same tenancy, currently both owned by Park State Bank. This is a fairly straightforward application. Referrals were sent out to the Woodland Park Utilities Department, the Public Works Department, to the City Field Inspector, to the Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District, to IREA, to Black Hills, Baja Cable, and CenturyLink. And we also notified adjacent property owners, everyone within 150 feet of the subject site. We sent out adjacent property owner notices of tonight's meeting. We also put a poster on the site, and we did a publication in the Pikes Peak Courier. Staff has received no public written comment or concerns regarding this easement vacation. Based on staff's findings and no concerns from the public, staff does recommend that council approve ordinance number 1257, vacating the 10-foot utility and drainage easement between lots 9 and 10, Paradise of Colorado, filing number 2, with an address of 271 and 281 Thunder Ridge Drive in the suburban residential zone district, as requested by Park State Bank and Trust, who is the property owner. Mr. Chuck Mahoney of Park State Bank and Trust, who is the authorized representative for them, is here tonight and is available to answer any questions or to speak on the application. That concludes my presentation.
Sounds good. Council, do we have any questions? Should we bring Mr. Mahoney up, or is everyone satisfied with the information that they have?
No questions from me.
If not, Laura, thanks very much. Chuck, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. This is public comment, public hearing, so if anybody would like to step forward and have any questions or concerns relative to this issue. If not, we'll move forward and call for a motion to approve ordinance number 1257.
Motion to approve ordinance 1257.
Second. Thank you very much. Sally?
Thank you. Matthews?
Yes.
Mella?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
And Levy.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item number 9B, and Sally's changing hats, and we're going to look at ordinance number 1260.
Oops. Thank you. Ordinance number 1260 is to amend an ordinance from 2013 that was 1196, and this was for the conditional use, special use permit for Teller County Waste. And this purpose of this ordinance this evening is to extend the concrete paving completion deadline. So first, I would like to remind you and show you the site plan that Mr. Baker had approved through the City Council over a year ago for his conditional use and special use permit to operate on a site on County Road 231. And there were two structures on the site that have been remodeled. The first structure is an office building that is now being occupied and operational for the office workers, and it has received a certificate of occupancy. They've been operating since the end of October in this building. And then the second building is a auto repair or the truck repair building that sits out front. Behind the truck repair building is the yard where the trucks are stored, and there is employee parking back here. This site was to be totally hard surfaced, and the majority of that surfacing has been completed. In fact, 750 yards of concrete have already been poured. Within this red circle is the remaining work yet to be done that should be able to be completed in the near future. That will be about 50 yards of concrete yet to be poured. And the buffer walls, the drainage, the landscaping, all of those improvements have been completed to date, as well as all the fees being paid, the fees that were required by Teller County, $40,000 for the roadway, the reimbursement fees, the tap fees, and any outstanding legal fees have also been taken care of. So I wanted to share with you a few photos of the existing site that I took today. First of all, this is the remodeled office building. That was an old cabin, now is functioning very nicely for their business office. And then the yard, you can see that it has been hard surfaced. And in fact, they were able to clear the snow, and it's all melted off, and the drainage is working beautifully for this back area. The fencing that was to be a buffer wall for the yard, as well as some additional fencing for the adjoining neighbor, is all installed, and the landscaping. So again, the majority of this site has been improved, and except for this portion in front of the maintenance shop, and about 50 yards of concrete still need to be placed in this area. Also wanted to show you that these were the existing buildings, and this is what was proposed for improvements for both buildings. In fact, Mr. Baker went above and beyond the architectural approval for the office building and then for the garage area as well. He is still planning to replace these doors, so it will have a very nice appearance to the county road or West Street. Here again is a comparison photo of what the site was like in 2013, and then today, the improvements. The concrete has been placed down the majority of the driveway to the backyard. There's just a small section in the front yet to be completed. So with that, staff would recommend that you move to approve ordinance 1260, amending condition number 12, which did place the deadline for completion, and we recommend that it be extended to June 1st, 2016, as well as an acceptable security be in place through that time until a final acceptance is and a final approval by our construction inspector is given. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Dean Waters is here this evening. He has been the contractor on site to complete the office work and all of the infrastructure that has been installed.
Thanks, go ahead. Should we bring Dean up?
I just wanted to ask,
Okay, go ahead,
you
Ken.
mentioned security. What was the amount of that? Is it a bond?
The amount that we have right now is over $260,000, and that will continue through to January. If he needs more time and has not received a final, then he will have a new security in place for whatever the remaining cost of the balance of those improvements, and plus 10%.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead of the
No,
game there.
no, you're fine. Phil?
Yeah, with respect to the newly phrased condition number 12, it indicates subject to a day-to-day extension for every day of delay outside of Teller County Waste's control. Is there any sense of what would be the criteria for deeming it out of their control?
That would be a very deep snow, just like we had the other day this week, and weather conditions mainly related to outside their control.
And the June 1 deadline, is that deemed How would you determine that? 6 months? Is that what you did?
It's pretty standard for us. If there is a home or another business that is finishing up during the dead of winter, then we allow them through to June 1st to complete.
That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
This is the last provision of the agreement we have with Mr. Baker, then? Everything else has been taken care of satisfactorily?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There are some operational requirements for him to maintain throughout his operation, but this is the only thing that needs to be completed as far as improvements to the site.
Okay, thank you.
Dean Waters, could you do me a favor and come up, and I've got a question for you. Just give us your name and address, please, Dean.
Dean Waters, 130 Montana Vista.
First, thanks. Looks like you and Jason or you and Jay are going above and beyond out there, which is tremendous. I'm sure the neighbors are happy in that regard. Tell me, worst case scenario, we're going to give you to June 1st. When do you think this project could be done? I know it's weather permitting.
Well, it's weather permitting. It's going to depend, like Sally said, on weather, on snow, frost. Our next step is to make our asphalt cut on West Street. So it's going to be dependent on that. If we have a, good winter in the next few months, then we can get it done pretty easily. Jay is renting his site mix equipment, so he's real concerned to get that off the rental books, so to speak.
So you think June 1st, we should have no issues?
I would think so, yeah. Like she said, we already poured 750 yards, and this last amount is a relatively small amount in the whole scheme of the job.
Great. Any other questions of Mr. Waters? Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. We are in public comment right now. Do we have anyone from the audience that would like to comment? Okay, if not, call for a motion to approve.
I move to approve ordinance number 1260 to amend condition number 12 as specified in the ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. Sally's back.
Yes. Mr. Mella?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Levy?
Yes.
And Matthews?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Sally. Thanks, Dean. Okay, moving right along. Item number 10 on your agenda, new business, and we will approve resolution number 797. David?
Thank you, Mayor. That's certainly the hope this evening. Resolution number 797, Series 2015, is a resolution levying general property taxes for the year of 2015 to help defray the cost of government for the City of Woodland Park for the 2016 budget year. We bring this to council every year. The mill levy total of 16.249 mills for the City of Woodland Park has remained unchanged since 1991. It's what we're again proposing to the council is the mill levy. And council, it is the staff's recommendation that you approve resolution number 797.
Council, do we have any questions? Okay, if not, we'll call for a motion to approve resolution 797.
So moved.
Second.
Sally?
Thank you. Sawyer?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Mayor Levy?
Yes.
Matthews?
Yes.
And Mella.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Not on the agenda, and I have one person signed up tonight. It's Julianne Mills. I hope I spelled or said that right.
Good evening.
Welcome. Just give us your name and address before you start, please.
Julianne Mills, and I reside at 2321 Rampart Range Road.
Thank you.
I'm here to address the issues surrounding the location of our new aquatic center. My family moved to Woodland Park in 1974, and my mother frequently wrote letters to the editor asking for a community center and pool for our children. That was over 40 years ago. Even though it has taken 40 years, I personally cannot wait for the completion of this pool. I do believe that we are at a point in this project that we need to seriously consider a more feasible location. The high school location definitely has many negatives. The first and foremost is the traffic congestion and accessibility. We are not only dealing with school traffic, students, parents, buses, but also employees from the City of Woodland Park Maintenance Facility. The influx of people from Colorado Springs who use Baldwin/Rampart Range Road to access Pike National Forest Rampart Reservoir for boating, fishing, hunting, and hiking, and many other things. More important are the people who live here and have to use Baldwin/Rampart Range Road daily to access the downtown area or Highway 24. I have lived in the same house on Rampart Range Road for over 30 years. Our traffic has increased immensely. As the growth of Woodland Park and Colorado Springs continues, it is inevitable that the volume of traffic using Baldwin/Rampart Range Road would also continue to grow. Number two, there is no room to create extra lanes for traffic coming or going on Baldwin. There is no room for an aquatic center expansion. Parking availability will decrease. Students are already parking on the street. Number five, with the increase in traffic, we need to consider the safety and security of our children. Number six, if the pool is a public pool, how does, quote, school use fit into this scenario? More importantly, how will it affect public usage and hours of availability if the school is involved in any way? My last, number seven, what is the price we are going to have to pay to acquire this site at the school? Highway 67 versus, now I'm going to go in because I favor the location at Highway 67 and Kelly Road. I feel this location by far has greater potential than the site at the high school. The positives far outweigh the negatives. First and foremost, this site is situated directly off a main highway. Therefore, there will be little, if any, impact on surrounding neighborhoods or subdivisions in comparison to the high school or even the Meadowwood sites that was proposed earlier in the survey of 2011. Accessibility, we couldn't ask for a better site. There is room for expansion at that site. The infrastructure is already in place for a traffic control light at that intersection. And the land, biggest and foremost, the land's free. And as opposed to the site at the high school we'll have to pay for. I am well aware that the majority of people in Woodland Park are frustrated because this project has taken too long, 40 years. Now everyone is at the point they're saying, we don't care where you build it, just build it. But how many of those people are aware of the option that we have on Highway 67 and Kelly Road? The property on Highway 67 and Kelly Road was not an option when the 2011 survey was done. Therefore, to be fair to the entire community, we need to let the people whom are paying for this project decide on a proper location. I feel it is pertinent that the City Council put a hold on all negotiations with the school district and consider the Highway 67 site as an alternative location. If we do not address the major drawbacks of the high school site, there is a possibility of creating a sense or the appearance of improprieties. Even though the high school location may be the cheapest and easiest site to work with, that does not automatically make it the right choice. And I do have one question, if I may. I would like to know, is it true that we have already done a drill for soil testing at the high school site?
Do you have any other questions, and then we'll try to
Oh, okay.
respond to you.
And then the other question, it was just good to me, the park on school property, may it be accessed by the public during school hours? I don't know whether anybody's, I don't even know the question to that, and that's why I'm asking it. What happens with the pool on school property during school hours? You know, just a comparison, if the park isn't, if the public doesn't have access to the park, then what's going to happen with the pool?
Great. If you'll just stay there, I'm going to start
Okay.
with David, and he's going to answer some of your questions. I saw him feverishly taking notes.
I bet.
Mayor, Council, I'm prepared to answer the vast majority of your questions if it's council's desire that I do that this evening.
Go ahead. But I do have one comment on the traffic.
Thanks for your concerns. I've had the discussion on most of these points.
Right,
with
I
folks
realize that.
Within the community. And as we talk about it tonight, if I haven't fully satisfied you, if you'd like to come in, or we can meet anywhere you want to, I can show you drawings or things that we have done to mitigate some of the concerns that you have. We are currently in a discussion with the school district to reach an agreement to build the facility there. But let me go through some of the things that you mentioned. Your first had to do with traffic congestion and accessibility. From a traffic congestion perspective, I won't argue with you that an aquatic center at that location won't add traffic there. I've offered to meet with folks at those intersections in the morning during the vast majority, when the vast majority of the traffic is there, to see truly what would be adding a few more cars look like to that. And yes, the city's going to grow, and yes, more people are going to access Rampart Range Road, but I don't know what the true impact's going to be. We will do a traffic study to see what that impact will be. But I think it will be, as it's spread out over the course of the day, I think it will be a few cars, not hundreds of cars. So I don't think the impact is going to be drastic or would cause people to change the way they use Rampart Range Road now. Now, what I'd ask you to do is let me go through all of these, and then if
All right,
the
I've never
council
done
wants-
this before, so...
Well, that's fine, but if the
okay.
council wants to allow some dialogue, we can certainly do
Okay.
that. But we will do a traffic study. You talked about no room for an extra lane. Actually, we think there's room for some turn lanes or some through lanes that would add for ease of movement through that area. I agree with you, there's no room to add additional lanes the full length, but there's room for some turn lanes that would make movement into and out of that less of a distraction. It would be foolish of us to look at a facility without the opportunity for expansion. We don't know what an expansion might include. We would want the community to help us decide what that is, but we have some concept sketches for the basic aquatic center, for the bodies of water that we've talked about, leisure pool, competitive pool, therapy pool, those types of things and all the other things. And when we set that on the property, there's still sufficient room to add, and this includes parking as well, to add things such as, and I'm not suggesting this is what we would put there, but a basketball court and racquetball courts and additional exercise rooms. There's sufficient room on that
In that
plot of land.
one little square.
Yeah, it's 76,000 square feet, and again, I'm happy to show you the
No,
plans that-
I've looked at, I've seen what's been printed in the paper and the layout of it, so it's not like I'm totally...
No, I understand. But if
Okay.
you'd like to see what our thoughts are on your expansion question,
Okay.
I'm happy to show you that
All
as
right.
well. Parking, we're working with the school district. We think that the staff for the aquatic center would park in the bus turnaround because there's already school staff that parks there now. As part of this project, we would build additional parking to incorporate some for the aquatic center. We would be working with the school district that if we consume some of their parking, that we could build additional parking on the school grounds for them. At this particular time, I don't agree with you completely that there's abundance of school students that park somewhere other than the parking lots. There's a lot of vacancies, but what we know is as the school year progresses and more sophomores get their driver's license, the parking lots become more full. But we do think we have a good plan for parking. Safety and security of children, I would suggest to you that there's no safer place in town for an aquatic center than adjacent to the school. And here's why. The school has their own school security officer and 2 school resource officers, one at the Gateway High School complex and one at the middle school Columbine. So there's more police presence and security presence and camera presence and awareness of opportunity for perpetrators in a school zone than any place else in this city. Public usage versus school usage. First of all, the city would want to make sure that we absolutely control the scheduling. Would the school have an opportunity for things such as high school swim teams, maybe a few PE classes? Yeah, those are the things that we're discussing. Would it be all-consuming? No, we don't believe that it would be at all, and we would strive to make sure that it's not, because in its essence, it's a community pool. There are many opportunities during the day for shared use. There's many opportunities in the day where there won't be any students in there at all. And so we think there's sufficient times when there will not be any students at all within that. And certainly, school only meets for, 165, 180 days out of the year. We think that's a scheduling and an operational issue. It's going to be the community's pool, not the school's pool. The price to pay. We're hoping that our agreement with the school will be that we'll trade the land for the opportunity. We're still working through those negotiations, meaning that it would cost us nothing in cash to procure that land. We're not sure that that's going to be the case, but then they could use the facility for their swim teams and PE classes without paying, say, the daily rent use. It would be a trade of that opportunity. Those, I think, were your comments as it related to the high school location. You speak of preferring the 67 and Kelly's location. It's true, it's off a main highway. It is off of 67. The land that Mr. Duncan so graciously offered has actually changed over the course of the years. The mayor and I met with Dana a few weeks ago to discuss which parcel he might be interested in. He was open to discussion on any parcel of land. He narrowed it down to 2 or 3. And I've walked those pieces of dirt, and I can tell you that from an engineering perspective, it's my opinion that it would cost significantly more money to build in that location than it would at the high school. And I realize you made the statement about it's not all about the dollars, but that's what drove me away from recommending to council that we step away from Woodland Station, was the exorbitant cost there. For most of the dollars that I save building it at the school site, it goes to enhance the aquatic center facility. One of the things that we found out as we've gone through this process is labor costs have gone up, and I will struggle to make sure that we have enough money to build the facility that the community wants. So I need to save every dollar that I can to ensure that we have the facility that the community wants. It's not free to build the infrastructure at the 67 and Kelly's intersection. It would probably require us to install a signal light, and that's quite a bit of money to do that. Some of the preliminary work has been done, it's true, but certainly not the $200,000 or $300,000 that it would take to install a signal light. The land that's north of Stone Ridge Drive, that was one of the earlier offers that Mr. Duncan did, is actually in a bowl, and it would be very difficult to build in that area. It's not even terrain. Quite a bit of infrastructure work would take place: utilities, water, sewer, electric, gas, the roadways, the parking. All those things, to me, make that site certainly cheaper than Woodland Station, but much more costly than the high school location. The land may be free. I won't argue that point with you at all. And awareness, during the survey, there were many parts of that survey, and the city didn't do that survey. It was the Woodland Aquatic Project that did that.
Yes.
And there were several locations that weren't included in that survey. The sense of impropriety. Our citizens get to decide if what we're doing is improper as it relates to the relationship between the city and the school. I can tell you that there is none. We, as a city, partner with the county, the fire district, the school district, the ambulance district, and the library district on a daily basis to do good things for this community. Yes, we have done some surveying on the property, and yes, we've done some geotechnical work on the property at the school so that we can create that good, solid engineering estimate to see if we should move forward. It's not a done deal that we would go there, but we needed those 2 pieces of scientific and engineering information to help us understand what the costs and the cost savings would be. Transitioning from the aquatic center, the play park above the clouds, it's my understanding that when school is in session, for those hours of the day that school is in session, the play park is closed to the public. It's not a city park. It's the play park above the clouds. The school district's relationship with the city for the aquatic center would not be that same relationship.
Do we have a guarantee that it won't be?
In the agreement that we're working on, I can tell you that after discussions with the council, yeah, that agreement will guarantee what that relationship will be.
Okay. I wish I'd had a pen earlier when we started. Are we still going? Are you still?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest this in the essence of time. Mr. Buttery has agreed to meet you and chat with you at any time. I'll let you go on. You can ask a couple of questions, but
Just a
since
couple.
you'll have ample opportunity, we want to answer all your questions at
Okay.
the point. I'm not sure this is the venue to do that.
Okay.
So go ahead, and we'll give you another couple minutes.
Okay. Concerning the traffic, you guys were going to monitor that and see what that load is. Is that going to be 365 days a year? Because the traffic going to the national, that's 365 days a year. The city, 300, pretty much the city, 365 days a year, maintenance. So I would think if you're going to do a traffic study, it would have to be an entire, at least 6 days, to do a proper one, to see what that actual flow of traffic, not just the school traffic during the school, fall semester, spring semester. I think it would have to be done for a good period of time to get an accurate estimate on what that traffic is going to be like.
We've done that work, some of that work already.
Okay.
You may have noticed as you were driving from
Yes.
home that there were the little hoses
Right.
across the road.
Yeah.
Those were there for some period of time. I don't know what
A
that period of
month,
time
maybe
for.
2 months, not that long. As far from what I remember, they were not there that long.
Sure. And what the traffic engineers will do is they'll study that, they'll compare it to other things, and they'll draw their best conclusions from that
Right,
information.
and it depends on the time of year, because in the summer, we have huge numbers of people going up to the National Forest
Sure.
in the summer, so it would vary as far as them figuring out, it depends on the time of year, truly does. The other thing on the infrastructure, I saw in the notes that we had allotted $160,000, so we are that much further with monies that we could spend on the infrastructure for the Highway 67 site. So you're telling me it's on the north side and not the south side of the inlet to the subdivision? Is that
At
correct?
Stone Ridge,
Yes.
there were two areas that Mr. Duncan had talked to us about some time ago. Both were on the north side.
Okay.
The most recent discussion was actually on the south side, but really on the north side of Meadowood Sports Complex.
Mm-hmm.
But the area in that was not large enough to do that.
Okay.
But I don't recall him ever offering any land just immediately south of Stone Ridge Place, or Stone Ridge, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. Just one more thing. When I talked...
You brought up the $160,000. That was an estimate on one component of the infrastructure that we would save moving from Woodland Station to the high school site.
Okay. Well, that would, in essence, be good for no matter what site we ended up choosing. We do have that money to
Yeah, I'd
put
have to go-
towards the
I
infrastructure,
have to go back
correct?
and look at my notes and see what that
Okay.
160, I think it was a comparison of the two sites, not the savings from
Okay, and I
there.
could have be wrong, too.
I did not bring those
Okay.
notes with me this
All
evening.
right. And, shoot, I lost my train of... Oh, the security. I was more concerned with the amount of traffic that's going through there in the summer. The children are going to be using the pool in the summer, not necessarily during school. That's what I was implying, were those times as far as security. And I know the school district doesn't employ security when school is not in session.
That's true.
So that was my main concern. And if there were other ones, I didn't have my pen, so I don't remember. So I will make an appointment with you and to discuss these matters further.
And please
Okay?
bring whomever you'd like to join us.
Okay.
We can have that discussion.
All right, thank you for your time.
I did have that one comment about traffic.
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
That seems to be a big issue.
It is. It is a big issue.
Well, I did my own little traffic study this afternoon and parked right where at the intersection where the bus turnaround lane comes out. I went in there through past Gateway Elementary, and the number of parents that are parked along there to pick up their kids is way up there. Okay, wonder why we have buses when everybody's picking up their kids. But that aside, you got that huge slug of folks that are, picking up the kids, and then they're going to come around Panther Way and come out. Then you have that huge slug of people, students, that are parked in the student parking lot wanting to come out on Baldwin, okay? And when they come out, they start turning down Baldwin, and the intersection there that I was observing, you have a crossing guard there, and you have a string of kids coming out, and he'll hold the traffic up until 100 or 200 yards worth of kids comes through there, okay? Very inefficient. But then when there's no kids there, he goes and stands by the side of the road, and then it's a four-way stop. And who's going to go first, who's going to go second, and, it's just a mess of trying to get through a four-way stop. Now, the simple solution to all that would be to have one of our police officers it started at 3:11 to be precise, is when things started to build up. And by 3:25, it was all cleared up, everybody was gone, and that was it. That's 15 minutes. And if we could have a police officer waving people through the stop signs, and then when the buses are ready to come, waving them through, and minimizing that amount of stop and go at that intersection, we would probably clear up most of the traffic problem there. Okay? But I will leave that to the experts, but I don't think these little strips across the road are going to make that kind of observation. You need to have somebody look at it.
Yes. And that has to do with accessibility, because we wouldn't have any of those issues at another location.
Okay.
None.
Now, my next issue had to do with the siting. In 2011, there were a lot of questions not asked. I mean, certain sites not considered. But when the Woodland Aquatic Project Board of Directors met in the spring of 2012 to come up with a strategic plan, we had a chapter on siting. And we tried to identify at that time Dana Duncan's property, North Memorial Park, etc. And we came up with, we knew this was going to be a big issue. And we tried to come up with objective criteria: distance to the schools, was it south facing to get sunlight for passive energy treatment, visibility of Pikes Peak, other factors. And you can see that in the Woodland Aquatic Project's website. And it has a copy of the strategic plan. And we had to interpret what the survey had said into some concrete action. So I would invite you to take a look at what we considered at that time. And we were trying to consider as many all sites as possible and rate them on an objective basis. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Ms. Mills.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for being here.
Yes.
Okay, any other public comment? Somebody didn't sign up, would like to speak?
If you don't mind.
Sure, come on up. Jerry, if you'll just state your name and address for us, please.
Jerry Simon, 365 Sun Court. I just want to thank you for your passion. I'm president of the Woodland Aquatic Project. I've been involved for a long time on with just as much passion trying to get this aquatic center, make it available for our citizens. I know the siting has become a little bit of a contentious issue. I've listened to all the pros and cons, and the thing is, they're all true. But I've also been a part of a lot of the analysis that's gone on, and I respect what our city has done to look at all those pros and cons, and look at them hard, and make a difficult decision. Right now, construction costs are escalating quickly, and every day that we don't build the aquatic center is costing the city about $2,500 every working day in what we have to reduce from the eventual facility in construction escalation. So I respect that our city has acted as representatives of the public and made that difficult decision, and I love your passion. Want to talk to you after this. That's all.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, anybody else before we move on?
Can I make one final comment? In the last Courier newspaper, there was this subject came up, and one individual was quoted as saying that Dana had offered to build the aquatic center under certain conditions. The board has never heard of that offer at all. We don't know where it came from, so unless they have proof that this was offered, I hope they can correct that record. Thank you.
I do believe at one point in Mr. Duncan's development of Stone Ridge, he contemplated building a swimming pool for his subdivision.
Okay, well, that's nothing in the order of this.
No, I understand, but I can understand how that, in the newspaper, it could be extrapolated from that one desire that he had a long, long time ago that didn't come to fruition.
Okay.
No?
I will say one clarification, that in the paper, it did say that we've already voted on the location, which is not true.
Thank
So
you.
we'd like to point that out. Also, I'd like to reiterate safety. The school location is one of the safest places to put an aquatic center. If we step back and look at all the locations for our children to be safe, the school is the absolute best place. So if we imagine our 10-year-old son or daughter or group of kids walking home late at night from Meadowwood, there's only a few sidewalks, they're not lit. Walking home from 67 and Kelly, they would have to cross a highway. So right now, the aquatic center in the pool location is the most familiar. It's most familiar with the kids, it's most familiar with the families. It's got sidewalks, it's got stop signs. It's a familiar location and absolutely the safest. And I'd just like to point that out.
Thanks, Noel.
Thank you.
Council, anybody else before we move on? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks again, Ms. Mills, for being here. Thank you. You bet. Okay, we'll move on to reports, and the mayor report is first this evening. I'm going to start with the student art because it always intrigues me. I'm not very artistic. Spencer Richardson has provided this piece of art for us. He's a senior at Woodland Park High School, and as you know, we'll introduce a different piece of art every council meeting, and there's another great one for us. Okay, a number of announcements today. Friday, November 20th, and Saturday, November 21st. This weekend, Woodland Park High School presents Fiddler on the Roof at 7 o'clock in the Dixon Auditorium. A number of people have seen that already and are thrilled. It's just outstanding. Sarah Lee does a tremendous job at the high school. Saturday, November 21st, Woodland Park Community Singers present holiday tunes and songs from the Sound of Music at the library from 11 till noon. Next Saturday, the 28th, is Shop Small Business Saturday. Please support our local businesses. Saturday, November 28th, also is the Mountain Artists Holiday Show and Sale at the Ute Pass Cultural Center. That goes from 10 to 4 p.m. Thursday, December 3rd, Chamber Lunch and Learn. FLSA proposed regulatory changes. Contact the Chamber for reservations, 687-9885. FLSA, help me with that, Deb.
Fair Labor Standards Act. Fair Labor Standards Act. Has to do with exempt, non-exempt, minimum wage, maximum stuff.
Don't say next.
Overtime, I stopped.
Be required for employers if right now there's a base of 28,000. Anything over is going up to 50,000 for exempt employees overtime.
It'll be very good information for business owners. Thursday, December 3rd, Prospect Home Care and Hospice Lights of Love at the Ute Pass Cultural Center from 6 to 8 o'clock. And to everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Take time as you celebrate with your friends and family to recognize all that we have to be thankful for. So, thank you very much. That's all I have. We'll move on to council reports. Bob? Anything this evening?
No.
Ken?
Nope.
Phil?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
John?
Nothing.
Nothing. Quiet council. It's a rarity. We will move on to city attorney's report and Aaron Smith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have a report this evening, and that report concerns conflicts of interest, and in particular, the law that governs city council members with regard to conflicts of interest. The issue has come up as to whether or not Mayor Levy and Councilman Sawyer have a conflict of interest in the future vote on where to put the aquatic center, which really is a future vote on a possible contract with an entity such as a school district to purchase property for the aquatic center. So because that issue has come up, it's important that it be addressed, and I will tell you that I've done the legal analysis under Colorado law, and I have concluded that Mayor Levy and Councilman Sawyer do not have a legal conflict. I would like to take this evening to walk you through an overview of the law governing conflicts of interest, and in particular walk you through my analysis of the issue, and then I will allow for an opportunity for any questions council may have. I would start with the city charter, because as a home rule city, the city always gets to start with its charter. The charter in Woodland Park says that in the event the mayor or any councilman or any member of his immediate family has or could potentially be construed as having a conflict of interest, said mayor or councilman shall declare such interest. If the mayor or any councilman fails to declare such interest, the remaining members of the council shall determine by a majority vote whether said interest does in fact constitute a conflict of interest. Neither the mayor nor any member of the council shall vote on any question in which he has a conflict of interest, other than the common public interest, or on any question concerning his own conduct. And so that is a straightforward prohibition on voting when you have a conflict of interest. The charter does not define conflict of interest, and so it's necessary to look to Colorado law to determine what a conflict of interest is within the meaning of Colorado law. And so I apologize ahead of time, council. This is going to be a bit dry, and it's going to be a bit legalistic, but it's very important. These words have meaning, and these are the words that are contained in the statute. And so I will present for council what the definition of conflict of interest is under Colorado law. Colorado law says that a city council member shall not perform an official act directly and substantially affecting to its economic benefit a business or other undertaking in which he either has a substantial financial interest or is engaged as council, consultant, representative, or agent. In order to do this analysis, so that is the first definition of legal conflict under Colorado law. There is a second definition. And that is contained within this section of the statute, which reads, a member of the governing body of a local government who has a personal or private interest in any matter proposed or pending before the governing body shall disclose such interest to the governing body and shall not vote thereon, and shall refrain from attempting to influence the decisions of the other members of the governing body. So we have those two tests. We have that substantial financial interest test, and we have the personal and private interest test. Let me share with you the analysis that I performed. The first test that I mentioned, the substantial financial interest test, again states that the council member shall not engage in an official act directly and substantially affecting to its economic benefit a business or other undertaking in which he either has a substantial financial interest or is engaged as counsel, consultant, representative, or agent. This analysis is necessarily broken down into 3 prongs or 3 tests. All of the prongs have to be met in order to conclude that a vote on the contract with the school district for a purchase of a parcel of land poses a legal conflict of interest. The first element that I analyzed was the language in this statutory section, this test, if you will, that says that there has to be a business or undertaking. The school district is not a business. However, the statute also lists the word undertaking. Undertaking is not defined in the statute. It is, however, a broad term and arguably includes the school district. Under my analysis, this prong is met. This takes us to the next prong, the substantially affecting the school district's economic benefit prong. The contract between the school district and the city, if and when it comes before a council, would be a contract that would provide equal value in exchange for equal value. And so on its face, that contract does not provide a substantial economic benefit to the school. The notion is that the city and the school district would exchange equal value. The next test, or the next prong, is the substantial financial interest of the city council member or the mayor. The first sub-prong of this analysis is whether the council member or mayor has a financial interest within the meaning of the statute. If he does, then the second sub-prong of the analysis is determining whether that interest is substantial. At the very heart of the issue that's been raised is the coaching employment that Councilmember Sawyer has with the school district and Mayor Levy has with the school district. Councilman Sawyer is employed as a boys soccer coach and has compensation received from that for the full season of $4,300. Mayor Levy is employed as a boys baseball coach, and the compensation provided for that is $6,300 per year, out of which both of those annual salaries, out of both of those come the compensation for the coaching assistants. So let me just say that under the state statute, an employment interest does constitute a financial interest. Then the question becomes whether receiving the $4,300 or $6,300 a year for coaching services constitutes a substantial interest. Again, the statute does not define substantial. A reasonable answer is that it depends on what other non-school district compensation the council member and mayor receive. As both council member and mayor are self-employed and working full-time and not retired, it's reasonable to conclude that the salaries from the school district for coaching services do not constitute a substantial interest, especially where, as here, this amount is also expected to be used to compensate any coaching assistance. So this sub-prong is not met. The inquiry under this test does not end here, as there is a third sub-prong. Even if the person of interest lacks having a substantial financial interest, a conflict may still exist if the person is engaged as counsel, consultant, representative, or agent. Councilmember Sawyer and Mayor Levy are not counsel, are not a consultant, and are not an agent for the school district. The statute does not define representative. Oxford American Dictionary defines representative as a person chosen to represent another or others, or to take part in a legislative assembly on their behalf. A coach is chosen to coach as opposed to represent a school district, while an ancillary attribute of being a coach may be to serve as the face of the school district to the coaches and students of other schools and the public. A coach's primary function is not to represent a school district, any more than, say, a cafeteria worker's or a school janitor's position is. This sub-prong is not met. As 2 out of the 3 prongs are not met, the conclusion is that the vote on a contract with the school district, should it come before council, does not pose a legal conflict with the council member or the mayor's status as a school district employee and vice versa. Now, as I mentioned, there is also the test under the statute for the personal or private interest. So there is a need to analyze whether the Councilmember Sawyer or Mayor Levy has a personal or private interest, such that voting on any contract with the school district, if and when it would come up, will constitute a conflict. It could be argued that the councilmember and mayor may be swayed to vote in favor of the contract in order to curry favor with the school district as a means of ensuring future employment as a coach. However, that is not readily apparent from the circumstances. Moreover, the Councilmember Sawyer's and Mayor Levy's statements on this matter may be considered dispositive. Another basis on which to argue that Councilmember Sawyer or the mayor has a personal or private interest in the approval of the contract is not apparent. This can and should be confirmed by the council member and mayor. While the council member and mayor may ultimately be employed by the school district to coach in future years, the council member or the mayor aren't particularly or uniquely poised to either benefit or be disadvantaged by approval of that contract. This tangential relationship between the contract and the employee relationship does not rise to the level of posing a conflict of interest or have the potential to cause a conflict of interest under Colorado law. Lastly, the council member and mayor's interests are so tangentially related to the contract, if and when it comes up, that it is unlikely that they will create the appearance that personal rather than public interests will determine the council member's or mayor's vote on the contract. And so, council, I have concluded, and that is my analysis for why Councilman Sawyer and Mayor Levy do not have a legal contract under state law, conflict under state law. However, as I pointed out at the very beginning of this presentation, your city charter, section 3.14, which I read into the record, does allow the council as a whole to decide if one of their members has a conflict issue, and you are able to do that and make that decision separate and apart from my legal analysis. And so because Section 3.14 does allow for that to happen, it's appropriate at this time, and I've listed it on the agenda, to present for council's consideration, again, Charter Section 3.14, and the opportunity under it for the council to make a motion in a second, and then to vote on whether Councilman Sawyer or Mayor Levy have a conflict of interest in connection with the vote that will take place in the future in connection with the school district contract. And so I will pause at this time and allow for any discussion about that motion moving forward.
Who would like to start? Go ahead, Ken.
Well, I guess I would just speak from a little recent history, because I recused myself from a previous couple of meetings involving Peak Internet, since they're involved with the business I'm in, with it is the Courier, the paper, and there was a direct involvement with how they do, and if they would continue to do well, that would benefit me, because I sell advertising and do that type of thing. So I could see a direct relationship financially there. I don't see that in this case, especially the amounts of money that are being talked about for these two gentlemen who are fully employed elsewhere. I can't even begin to see that there's a problem. So that's how I would put it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Phil?
My comment would focus on perception, and substantively, legally, I concur with Ms. Smith's analysis that there is no arguable legal conflict. But perception is in the eye of the beholder to a large extent. And so there is that issue to consider as we discuss the impact, pro or con, on this. Those are not easy decisions to make, and I don't have any kind of a conclusion that's readily available or accessible. It has to be kind of decided by the person. That would be the only consideration I would have. It has nothing to do with the legal issue, but just the image and perception of the body of city council in the community.
Thank you. John, would you like to weigh in?
Well, at the last council meeting, I had to recuse myself because of some discussions involving America West Housing Solutions. I am, in effect, a board member. I am financially involved, and that, to me, and confirmed by Ms. Smith, was a direct legal conflict of interest for me. So I have no problem recusing myself from the topic of housing and America West Housing Solutions. And I think Phil made a very valid point with respect to perception. We understand that we represent the citizens. We understand that we also have personal feelings about most of these subjects that can be sensitive at times, particularly among the citizenry. It is important, I think, when there is a question, that the individual involved needs to seriously consider recusing himself or herself when these matters come up. And so that's what I will continue to do when we talk America West Housing Solutions. Otherwise, when we've had some discussions regarding possible contract with the school district and placing the aquatic center there, I didn't even think about a conflict of interest on the part of the mayor and my council colleague. Just didn't occur to me. You might say, well, that's rather short-sighted on my part, but I know them both, I think, reasonably well, and I see no conflict of interest in their cases.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. I concur that there's no legal conflict of interest. I share some sentiments expressed by my colleague, Councilman Mella, about the perception. And I would leave it up to each individual to make his comments, whether or not he would recuse himself or not, and why or why not in that situation. But it's not, I don't think I would want to call for a vote to ask them to recuse themselves. It's up to them individually to decide whether they would do that. Thank you.
Noel?
I would just like to say that I am for a community pool that benefits children, families, and adults. The pool being in the location of the school does not benefit me in any way financially. It does not benefit me in the school system. I am a soccer coach. I'm not a swim coach. I will not be at the pool coaching swimming. I will be probably swimming at the pool, regardless of where it is. I see absolutely no conflict of interest between me sitting here and voting for a location of the pool. Now, having said that, also, as a school employee, I am just a soccer coach. I don't go to school meetings. I don't go to staff meetings. I rarely go into the school and talk to the staff. Maybe during the season I do, because I need to do administrative stuff as a coach. But off-season, I rarely talk to any of the staff members. I don't go in the school at all. So I don't even have a school email. So if if people are thinking that I'm so involved in the school, well, they need to look at what I just said. I don't go to staff meetings. I've never been to a staff meeting. The only meeting I went to was when all the coaches got together and we had to do a driver's test and go over what we were going to do for that season. That's it. So I see no conflict of interest here, and I will not recuse myself from the vote.
Thanks, Noel. I guess it's up to me to comment also. The longer you're around in this process, you learn as you move forward. I know most of you that know me would agree that I'm not doing this for the benefit of the school, certainly not for my own benefit. Erin alluded to the substantial financial gain and the number that she put for the baseball program, and it is the baseball program, just so people understand, it's $6,300. I've got 3 assistants that I pay $1,800 each, so you all do the math. $900 for 5 months of coaching baseball. I would agree with Erin in this regard. That's not, and my wife would agree also, that's not substantial financial gain. That said, honestly, I agree with Phil in this possible issue of perception. And we kind of pride ourselves on doing things the right way, so there's still a chance that I could recuse myself. I haven't done so yet. If I feel like it's the right thing to do, then I'm going to go in that direction. I can't offer any definite decision right now, but I want to be above reproach, if you will, and I want this council to be seen as such. And so I agree with that perception part. I get it. I certainly don't agree with it. I'm not sure that many people do, but it's hard to manage, and sometimes it's just easier to step away. So that said, you kind of know where I stand on this. I've not made a definitive judgment at this point or decision, but I will certainly as soon as I can. But that kind of sums it up for me, and I think we all agree, almost all agree about the perception part, and I think everyone agrees with the prongs that Erin spoke about. And so we will move forward, and at the end of the day, we will do things that will best represent our community.
I would like to add just one more comment. We were looking at the arithmetic during our session, and so we concluded that Neil and Noel are working for less than minimum wage, less than $10 an hour, based on the work they do not just during the season, but with the club teams and at other times. So they are not benefiting financially at all. As a matter of fact, they're donating their time to the programs.
Because we love the kids, and that's what we do. Okay, any other comment? Erin, what did I miss?
I appreciate council's discussion immensely. I appreciate the distinction that council understands between what's a legal conflict and what the charter allows you under 3.14 to vote on, as distinguished from a perception of conflict, which the charter does not allow you to vote on. And I really do appreciate the discussion council has had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Thanks, Mayor. Before Brian comes up, Bill has an exciting document that he'd like to share with council and the community.
There it is. This is the pre-final before we get final distribution on the citywide stormwater master plan. Culmination of 2 years of work by our consultant. Very, very detailed report. Gives us a good pathway forward for managing and maintaining our stormwater system. Also includes analysis of the two major creek systems that go through town, Fountain Creek and Trout Creek, Loy Gulch, and also outlines capital improvement plans and programs. So we'll be taking delivery of this very shortly. Sally and I have been going through the draft copies here, and it's now ready for delivery. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your financial support in getting this done. I think it's a worthwhile document that the Public Works Department City will use for many years to come.
Not only does it cover capital projects, but it also outlines maintenance things that Bill's crews can work on a seasonal basis. So it truly is a working document. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just want to go through a couple of points relative to DDA and then Main Street. We recently held our fall, the DDA recently held their fall retreat. The theme, I would say, was leadership moving forward. One of the things that I'm fixated on, have been, will be, is the financial condition of the DDA. I'm here to report that we are doing very well, which I know many of you already know. We had approximately 29% increase in revenue year over year from 14 to 15 and projected 15 to 16. So I'm happy to say that moving forward, we have the ability to not only look at our debt structure, but to also look at the opportunity to look at funding projects that are deemed important by the DDA and also other associated entities. We're also looking at Woodland Station. You talked a little bit about the Aquatic Center. That's set in course an action on the part of the DDA to look at Woodland Station, approximately 7 acres. One of the things that we all come to the conclusion, and it's been an evolution, is that property would be best served by an experienced development team. We will make a concerted effort in 2016 to bring a team like that to the table. We'll have a lot of dialogue, not only amongst the board, but with the community, the council, about how we vet that team individual. We've already started that process. As you know, it can be fairly an interesting journey, but also we hope to get a good net result. With that, we're also looking at various other events that have occurred. We've been, the city manager and myself and the mayor had the opportunity to visit with the Northeast Taylor Fire Protection District. They have a request on the table that the DDA consider a revenue sharing proposal concept. We will be going through some analysis later this year and into next year to present some proposals. I know it will be well thought out. I will say fundamentally I think there is a general consensus among the board that we need to do something. And but I will say to council that will be well thought out and something that supports not only our existing revenue stream but revenue streams moving forward. We also have the DDA has a very tight relationship with the Main Street program, as many of you are aware. Specific working with Main Street to define 2016 special project priorities. This will define what Main Street is these the very nature of the projects. Supporting the Main Street program in the area is also business recruitment and retention. One of the mayor mentioned the national event, Small Business Saturday. Main Street, both Main Street and Chamber will be supporting that event. There's a lot of specials. Get out on the street. I think last year was very successful. We're looking for the same type of opportunity this year. Also, just in looking at future DDA revenue assessment, including timing of city DDA debt payoff. One of my goals is, quite frankly, to pay off the city's $1.2 million debt as quickly as we can to allow that revenue stream to increase substantially moving forward. So we'll look at that had conversations with the board and the city manager, and I know council will be involved in those decisions moving forward. We've also, a lot of development questions about DDA expansion. I've had some offline conversations with some of the council members. Certainly, we have some that will surface in 2016. We'll do some research and analysis. We will, obviously at the board level, but also with council, because if we get into that, it's a council decision. There's a process that requires council vote moving forward. So I would expect that we'll see some of that in 2016. And finally, within the retreat format, the board is interested in looking at a scope of work for a downtown improvement plan, supporting both DDA and Main Street Foundation Plan and work program initiatives. I'm not quite sure what that'll look like, but I will tell you that it'll be an iterative process. It will have an impact relative to the downtown and the workings of not only we talk a lot about Woodland Station, but also downtown retail and the outlying areas. So that'll be an ongoing effort that I'll continue to bring forward to council. Finally, under Main Street Work Program, the Main Street Board, in their continued effort to form a 501c3 structure adopted via the efforts of the Main Street Organizational Committee, the bylaws that will, in essence, form the basis for that organization moving forward. So it's an exciting endeavor. I will say that the Main Street Board, the various groups that are committees that are involved have been highly energized and passionate about what they're doing. So we'll hear more about that as we develop further the 501c3. Also, our city attorney is reviewing the bylaws, and I'll say subject to the city attorney's review that those bylaws will go forward. Those are the big events. We're excited about where we're going in 2016. We're seeing progressive revenue increases over the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, and as such, we'll be able to be involved on many different levels, both with Main Street and the city on various projects. So again, an exciting time to be moving forward with DDA and Main Street. What questions can I answer at this point?
Looks like none. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay,
I have one more.
I'm sorry.
Quick. Will the stormwater plan be on the website, electronic version where people can read it, or will it be on your tape?
It's a huge file.
Right.
A huge sort of files. So we'll analyze that when we...
Yeah, you introduced it, but how is the public going to be able to see it, is the
We'll have
question.
copies
The old ways.
Okay. Also, I understand, too, the traffic circulation study is also completed, and is that going to be on the website? That's a much smaller document.
Yes, it's already on the Public Works page.
Okay, so it's good that we have 2 good studies done then. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, council? Okay, I have no comments on written correspondence, and council, remember, we need to adjourn back to executive session. The rest of us are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I forgot we were done.